express some views.
Yeah, I did say I should have stayed in Lagos, but these things happen. I think the point that the gentleman just made is an interesting one, but I think you need to also understand it in a particular context. Reform comes at a cost. Let's be very clear about that. Reform comes at a cost. I would argue that part of the reason why some of these reforms have taken so long is that not many people were really willing to face that cost of reform. Why that is the case, let's still leave that to you. However, in undertaking reform, you also need to make sure that those who can bear the cost of reform do so. And those who are vulnerable are protected from the worst costs of reform. And so when you say, oh, people are sharing money, that essentially what I seem to be hearing you say is that poverty reduction doesn't solve a nation's problems. Poverty reduction, actually, if you don't reduce poverty, worsens a nation's problems. Because the social incohesion that you will get creates a problem. That's number one. Number two is that the reforms that have happened thus far are reforms that suck resources from the economy really into government. Whether it's that you're buying FX at a higher rate or you're paying more for petrol. But more than that is that people are spending more of monies that they would have spent on food, on necessities, in the demand for some of these things. And so it's important to be able to say that who are these cash transfers, to whom are they going? How much is it? Does it really move the demand piece of the economy? That's number one. You do, however, make a very valid point that Nigeria's current industrial policy was written in 2012. That is 10 years ago. The world has changed in 10 years. And therefore, I would argue that Nigeria's industrial policy is due for review. I'm not going to say more than that. I have had to look at it. As I say, I once had a responsibility that meant I needed to know these things. So I have no problem with your assertion about an industrial policy. But I think we need to be very careful not to demonize these cash transfers, because those that are the beneficiaries are the poorest of the poor. Well, those who should be the beneficiaries are the poorest of the poor, for whom society cannot afford to have them left behind on the, or to have them, as they say, hoist on the petard of reform. If we do that, the environment for reform will actually then close, because they will then get angry. And whatever happens thereafter, it is what it is.
Okay, closing remarks. We're done.
Well, I've been told to close the session. Is enough? What's all that? Now, I think for me, yeah, well, you don't even want to know those things yet. Now, for me, this has actually been a very interesting session. Yeah, that the Minister of Finance has been, the coordinating minister is not here, but I think we've learned enough from what Taiwo has had to say. Probably two things stand out for me. The first is that we now have a central bank leadership that is committed to policy orthodoxy. Look, the governor has made one thing clear, and everybody needs to understand it. You cannot have negative real interest rates and expect that this economy is going to grow. People will say, you need interest rates to fall so that you can invest. Bullshit. Forgive my language. And the reason I say that so emphatically is very simple. Think about it this way. If you put your money in a bank today, the value of that money is being eroded by 27% every year. That's the rate of inflation. The return you get on your money at best is 16%. In other words, the net loss you suffer every year is 11%. Don't forget, the money in the system is actually concentrated up. The owners are moving their monies. So the idea that, you can artificially bring down interest rates in order to stimulate investment is total economic nonsense. It's not going to happen. In the first instance, interest rates are going to go up. Inflation should hopefully come down. Thereafter, can we begin to see the kind of recovery that is needed? So in other words, forgive me, Johnny Long, we just start. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.